All right. Hey. Let's let the room fill up a little bit. It's a little later than I planned. But we're live. We even got a chunk hanging out. Guys, you gotta check that thumbnail. You'll see a big old dog hanging. Hey. Good morning, Kill Switch. I'm a little later than normal, but that's kind of been the norm the last few days, trying to get a live stream going. Got, come here, buddy. Come here. We got big chunky puppy hanging out with me. Gotta share this in the chats. Let him know there's a big chunk dog. He's outside with me. He's fun. All right, I'm gonna stop talking like that. Unless it's desired. Sell out. Let's see. Brought the bass guitar in with me a little bit today. It's a cheap little bass I picked up a couple years ago. So, I hope everybody's been well. I finally got back from Texas. I'll do more of that in a little bit. Finally got back from Texas, let's see, Wednesday. Good morning, Kika. Thanks for dropping by. Guys, feel free to share. I know you all do. Feel free to go ahead and, if you want to drop out and share this in the chat, that's totally cool. Let people know, and some should get notifications. But then we all know that YouTube's just awesome with people subscribing and ticking the bell, like that actually means anything these days. And my show isn't particularly well SEO'd yet, but that's going to change. Going to get some better tags. Hey, Andrew J, good morning. Good to see you guys. Man, you tagged us all. That's great. Hey, Steve, what's happening? I almost called you Dom for a second just because of the wrench. But everybody has wrenches in my stream. That makes no sense. But I know that's probably the biggest insult I could give to you. And it would be great if Dom showed up right when I said that. That would be funny. Good morning to everybody. If you didn't see, brought in my bass guitar today. Well, A major scale there. Well, B major. It's been a little while since I played bass, plus I'm playing it really high. Oh, you're super cool, dude. That's awesome. Thanks for sending out a tweet. So I'm a really poor bass player because I tend to play a lot with my thumb, right? And if you're a good string player, if you're a good bassist or cellist or any of the similar instruments within that family, because bass is a lot more like cello than it is like a guitar, for those who aren't initiated in that business. Yeah, bass is much more akin to the cello. It's just been put in a form that looks much more like a guitar. And Leo Fender and some of the other guys who were some of the pioneers of modern electric guitars and basses, they really wanted to put this kind of thing into a form that was a little more compact, a little more easy to get around to gigs, and easier to amplify. Because as popular music started taking off, you were needing something like this, something that could project and was not a massive big cello to carry around. Bought a Fender and beginning package. That's excellent. I'm psyched for you. Yes, that's so cool. Kill Switch, I love it. Get doing that every day. And you know what? Listen to a big range of music. You know what I need to do, and I didn't put it in the description here. I need to put some of the links of the music I've been listening to. Maybe I can share it in the chats, but I want it somewhere where people can come access it all the time. I'll go back. Well, of course you love your Telecaster, Steve, because it's awesome, right? I'm going to get to that in a second. I want to try to remember you just said that. But finishing that thought I just had now, I'm gonna try to put a series of links. I promised when I first started this whole deal, dude, you rock, Andrew J. I promised I was gonna get a list out of drum books that I never did, but I do have them listed. I just need to post them somewhere. But I'm gonna do that, and I'll try to put them in the description of videos, things like, or some other place that you guys can come to centrally. Maybe at some point I'll have like, maybe I put it on my Facebook, or I could have like a big Drum Bear website, you know, which would also work well, and have a list of good drum books to dig into. Or I'll put it on my Steady in Time website, and you guys can come there, steadyintime.com, which I have in the description, is where you can find out about what I do drumming wise. I need to actually like update it one of these days. Yeah, that, and then I want to have a list of like music that inspires me. Absolutely, absolutely. I'm glad to make people's day, man. That's what I live for. Yeah, I've been getting inspired by some crazy stuff lately. There's a group that Axe Bear, Brandon, for some of you who know him, he's from Canada, Manitoba area, I think, and he's a pretty cool dude. You should check some of his stuff out on YouTube and on his Facebook. And he shared this video a while back on his Facebook. Some of you who don't do it, congratulations. I salute you. You know, that's a good thing to not do. But for those of us that still wade into the muck and mire, he posted something from a group called Owani or Owain. I don't know how to pronounce it. I think they're Scandinavian, one of the Scandinavian countries up there, Norway or Sweden. I'm not sure which they're from, but they're stellar musicians. They're ridiculous. It's a guitar player and a drummer, and they're like, it's a video of the two of them out on some cliff overlooking ocean or a sea of some kind. It's just incredible. Mountains in the background, and it's like progressive rock type stuff. I mean, it's really high level, high musicianship kind of stuff, and they're just tearing it up. I can't listen to that song and not feel like awesome. It's really, really cool. There's another musician I mentioned before. His name is Neil Morse, and Neil's stuff I can't listen to without feeling just awesome. You know, I gotta find my cowbells. I have them. I had a gig last night and I didn't have my cowbell. I wished I had. I never really needed to use it, but it's nice to have, you know, just as an option. Otherwise you just go to the bell of your ride cymbal, you know, and get a good clang on there. We have ways to make it work. But yeah, I need to track that down. I'll bring it in. You're absolutely right, Kiki. That's a requirement. That you have to have more cowbell, especially when your health begins to go south and you have a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell. You know, so at any rate, I'm gonna post some more stuff out there, and I'll let you guys know where, of like a list of drumming books, a list of other musical instruction books that are awesome, video clips. I'm gonna have like playlists available in this channel where you can just go to YouTube videos that blow your mind. They're so good. Neil Moore's stuff I can't listen to without feeling great. And another group he started up a while back is called Flying Colors. Flying Colors music. So I'm gonna get to that. We were driving home Wednesday. My wife, no, let me recount this the proper way. 4 children, 3 dogs, 2 adults, and 1 minivan, all compressed in there. And we managed to make that work. We left the whole bench seat in the back up for 3 kids, and we left one of the middle seats, one of the captain's chairs in the middle, up, and the other one you could fold down and put into the floor. And that left a big space for the dogs, and you know, one dog usually would probably be up in the passenger seat's lap, right? So whoever's sitting there, my wife or I, but you could have all 3 dogs in the back, and it worked out, and it was a blast. It was too much fun, and at the same time it was insanity. Tension runs high when you're compressed like that. We did that trip as legally and as quickly as we could. if you drive straight through with no stops, it would take you about 12 hours to get from Fort Worth back to Peoria. We did it in a little over 14 because we only stopped like 4 times. Yeah, I think there were 4 total stops. 2 for gas, because we didn't have a whole lot of gas to start with. We should have done that the night before, but 2 stops for gas along the entire trip, and 2 that were just bathroom. Well, they were all bathroom, right? And I think one time we stopped to get some extra food other than what we already had. Did we really stop? Maybe we stopped only 3 times. I don't think that's right. No, we stopped the first time, and then we stopped about 3.5 hours later, just for restroom. And then we stopped another 3+ hours later, for gas. Yeah. It must have been 4. Must have been 4 in there. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. But we switched everywhere. We would rotate people through the whole process, and everybody got a chance. All the kids got a chance to sit in that captain's chair by themselves and not be squished on the bench seat. So we had some games in the car, like actual board type things, and coloring books, activity books, a Game Boy Advance, and an iPod that had some games on it. So minimal electronics, just a little bit here and there, and that rotated. But yeah, tensions ran high at many times, especially for the younger kids, because it's just a long way, you know. And tensions ran high for the adults trying to manage that, which was a blast. But toward the end of the night, you know, as we're on the final leg of the trip, we're getting closer to Peoria, and on our way in, we came into the fireworks happening. Like, we got to see tons of fireworks displays around the area, and that was kind of cool for the kids, kind of draw their attention in the final hour or so when they're really fractious, really just like ready for bed. But I put on some of this music by Flying Colors, and everybody chilled. I mean, you can't be too unhappy listening to that, because it just stays in these major keys, and it has these bits where it goes from minor feels and just switches right into major. It does some of these things where it doesn't follow your typical chord progression patterns, and it just uplifts you even more. And that's one of the things I love about great progressive rock music that's written in that way. It keeps directing you back to like the awesomeness feeling, you know, those great like dual guitar solo things, harmonic guitar solos that are just awesome. I don't have a whole lot of descriptors today. I'm going to try not to say it was a blast too much, because that's one of my favorites. Somebody at some point, if you feel like it, go ahead and make like a compilation of like hilarious phrases that I repetitively say. I'd laugh my head off at it. I would absolutely love it. If someone has the inclination to do that, I fully support you doing that. That would be wonderful. Try not to make me look like too much of an idiot, but I fully support you making some parody of me and my repetitiveness, because I'm well aware of it. At any rate, so the Telecaster, back to Steve's comment earlier, Telecaster is such a great guitar. Just the way that sucker is designed. Good morning, Mama Bear. Glad to see you joining us. We're just talking about me getting back from Texas here with the family, and the torrent of emotion that was involved in that trip. Playing a little bass guitar this morning, talking about how that's more like a cello than it is a real guitar. But now we're talking a little bit about the Telecaster. The Fender Telecaster is kind of an interesting instrument, and I can't give you a ton of detail about it. I should be able to, like off the top of my head. I don't recall some of those points that really make it different. Well, this Fender Stratocaster is what people are more typically familiar with. Like Kurt Cobain was a big Stratocaster fan and really did a lot with that. Clapton's done a lot with a Stratocaster, you know. Plenty of people have used a Strat for a lot of things. G.E. Smith used to play a Strat and make it sound amazing too. He was the guitar guy and band leader for quite a number of years on Saturday Night Live. And G.E. Smith, you go look him up on YouTube, and that's an interesting character. He's got a lot of neat stories. Hey, Uncensored Christian's in here too. That's great. Thanks for saying hey, Andrew J, because I missed them in the chat earlier. Yeah. G.E. Smith, interesting character. Go YouTube him. He's got great stories about the music industry, and he'll talk a little bit about a Telecaster. A guy named Mike Bloomfield was a famous musician. I'm trying to think of the name of the group, and it's slipping away from me now. But this is a famous Telecaster, a famous Telecaster that this guy played. And you go listen to what G.E. Smith has to say about it. That guitar changed the sound of music for a lot of people in popular music. He made "Shake Your Moneymaker" was a famous tune that guitar was made with, and you can't. G.E. Smith would have said it. He did say it this way. He's like, you can't write a tune like that today. You know, nobody's gonna write a tune like that today. It's just there were so many little things in there, little imperfections, you know, that made that tune amazing. Yeah, you gotta go check out what G.E. Smith has to say about Mike Bloomfield's Telecaster, and I think you'll dig it if you're into music and instruments and stuff. But he's just a fun guy to listen to because he's a gas. So at any rate, I urge people to save their money when they go on vacation, save up lots of money, and afford plane tickets to go where you're going, especially if you're going with a number of family members, and it's a long distance trip of 10 hours or more. I don't encourage you to drive those long distances with 3-4 kids or more, unless you've got like an RV. If you've got an RV and you've got space for everybody to move out and about, and then you've got better activities planned, yeah, or if you're ready for an intense amount of training, then it's probably good, because that's really what I think you get out of it. There are some positives, but I honestly say, save your money, go fly. Find ways to earn frequent flyer miles. I should tell you guys about this thing. There's an app out there. Some people don't like to do stuff like this, and I get that. Don't do your thing if you don't want to do that thing. But if you do and you're down with it, yeah, it tracks you a little bit, and you can turn it off when you don't want it to track you. But it's called Sweatcoin, and it's a type of what's hoped to be a new digital currency, you know. And I don't think it's on the exchanges yet, like Bitcoin or Litecoin or Ethereum or any of those things that are out there. But I suspect that it won't be too long before it is. The whole intention of the Sweatcoin app, if you haven't heard of it, only every 3 hours to stop and baby feed him. That's impressive, right? That's pretty darn impressive. Last year, when we did this trip to Texas, we were stopping every 1.5 to 2 because people needed to go to the bathroom, namely the younger people with less bladder capability. And that was a major change this year. We actually did 3+ hour segments, and I was amazed that happened. I was like, I can't believe this is going on, but nevertheless, it happened. So yeah, that's impressive, very much so. But you're saying he was an infant at the time, so you had to stop and feed him. Was that the case, Steve? He was saying stop and feed him, so I'm suggesting, I'm assuming, excuse me, that's the word I wanted, that he was an infant when you did that. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. With an infant, you could probably do that. They'll sleep and things like that. Right, yeah, that makes sense too. That's good, by the way. Yeah, if you can do, I'm not like a Leche League member. If you haven't heard of Leche League, go check that out. I've heard some people refer to them as like the militant wing of breastfeeding enthusiasts. You know, they're very hardcore about it. And you know, my mom was a big advocate of that. She did that for all of us kids, and had researched it a lot, that there's generally a massive amount of health benefits. Hey, Bisky. Sorry to belch when I'm saying your name. That wasn't my intent. Good morning, Bisky. Good to see you. Glad you could join us. Yeah, I know this is a bit late for some people, and some people got to get going to work and different other things they're going to do today. Might you, mama? Breastfeeding's a huge deal. It's a very important deal. It's got so many different benefits. There's some people who are in, you know, unique circumstances and you can't do it, and that's fine. You know, my ex didn't do a ton of it. Tried to do some of it, but it's like it's difficult to get into. You know, for some people, it's not an easy thing to get going with. Maybe it takes a little prep and mindset, you know, to really do well. But if you can, and your kid is, you know, fairly, how would I put that, kind of normal in its health issues and such, or lack of health issues, then you're gonna be all right with it. Hang on one second. I'm looking to see. Chunk, where'd you go, bud? Why is that puppy barking? Tell me you did not break out the fence, because I'm gonna be less than happy with you. Chunk. Chunk, where'd you go, bud? Yeah, if you didn't see at the beginning, I got in the thumbnail a little snap of me and Chunk this morning. If you can't tell, I moved to the backyard, so I don't get my panel of co-hosts behind me, but they can come and join me because they can freely come in and out the door, or the dog door there. One moment. Chunk! Hang on, let me just pop my head in the door and make sure he's actually in the house. He's had a history of popping out. Chunk, are you in the house? Oh, there you are. Okay. Come here, buddy. Come on, Chunk. Come here, bud. Good boy. Good boy. He comes barreling over you. Hi. Oh, I didn't mean that. I was going to say, come sit with me. When a 90-pound dog comes barreling at you from across the yard, just move. Just get out of the way, because they will take you out. He is so funny. And I thought he was going to come over and get petted and loved on and come sit by me and we'll do this. No, he went like barreling right past me through the dog door, like full speed. That was so funny. Hey, buddy, you want to come sit? Come here, chunky puppy. There he comes. Come here. Come here, buddy. Here. You want to say hi? You want to say hi? Here, we'll turn the camera down a little bit. You say hi. Oh, no, come back. Where are you going? He's too funny. Oh, he's such a puppy still. You know, he's... Yes, uncensored Christian. Glad to hear that. Yeah, it's super killer. And it's like, it's built in, you know. It's kind of cool that, you know, mothers have that capability in so many different species to be able to feed their kiddos. I get a little concerned when I see, you know, kids that are like 10 and 12 still breastfeeding. In some societies, I guess that's considered, you know, normal, commonplace. Hi, Gita. Good morning. Oh, Gita puppy, oh mine. What you doing? What's a puppy dogs? Oh, careful. I was worried Chunk was gonna blast through my computer and my phone here. You a good boy? You're a good boy. Yeah. I can't not talk like a baby to dogs. It's difficult. It's very difficult. There's a Geico commercial about that recently. Like McGruff the Crime Dog, if you haven't seen it, he's like a cartoon amongst live action people. It's like, hey, just got to process this crime report here, and then the other cops are like, oh, did the puppy won't be processed the crime, you want me reporty warty, or something along those lines. Not quite that ridiculous, but the whole premise was, just as sure as people will talk like babies to dogs, you can count on Geico to save you 15% or more on car insurance. And no, I'm not, Geico is not a sponsor of the show, but it's just funny. So, Sweatcoin. I was trying to talk about Sweatcoin before I got distracted about the Leche League. Soy formula, a real thing. Expect a wave of even more soy people in the future. Start them young, right? That's what they figure. I wonder if there are like soy formula production plants in cities like Portland and San Francisco and other such, you know. And I'm just alienating potential audiences in both those cities now, but I don't really care. As long as you're bears, you'll be here. There's bears everywhere, right? We're all over the place. Whether we know we're a bear or not, we're gonna figure out that were a bear one day. Boy, that would be a funny bit. That would actually be a really good comedy bit. Somebody should suggest that to Big Bear. Hashtag not a cult. There's an old Monty Python bit, right, from their old flying circus show. And they did this bit where they were joking about people coming out as being gay, right? And cult adjacent. That's great. Cult adjacent. Yes, children? Oh, they're barking at the neighbor dog. This old Monty Python skit from the Flying Circus Show. It was like the first or second episode. And it was John Cleese being interviewed by Terry Jones was the interviewer in this skit. And they were talking about why some men want to become mice. They have this, it was kind of joking about, I guess, if they were coming out as being homosexual, or they were a closet homosexual in their community and they couldn't talk about it normally. And so they had to hide, and they kind of brought light to that through making humor about people wanting to become mice, and that whole bit's hilarious. If you don't know about it, go check out Monty Python, Man Wants to Be a Mouse, or something like that. But it would be so funny to see Owen do a bit, or one of us do a bit about interviewing about like what made you want to be a bear, I could see that being a hilarious bit. At any rate, so I'm all over the place. We talked about the bass guitar, how it's more like a cello than a guitar. We've talked about the Fender Telecaster a little bit today. We've talked about progressive rock music, some Owane or Owane, O-W-A-N-E. Go check them out. Rock is Too Heavy, I think, was the name of the tune, and I'll put a link up for it when I redo the description later. I'll go edit it. But Flying Colors, you can't go wrong with Flying Colors, and some of their stuff is so good. Or other Neil Morse stuff. It's one of the best names in prog rock. We talked about the Leche League, and now we're talking about my trip back from Texas. That's been discussed, but yeah, now we're talking about whatever I was just talking about. Man, yeah, it's a tough thing to maintain a steady mind through these live streams. Monty Python skits, yeah. So let's see here. Fly, don't drive. I definitely want to say that. But I learned something. I learned something on that trip. Really? Yes. I could say that even just conversing about the female chest formation can distract a man's mind. You're absolutely right. Oh yeah, Brandon Bloom, Axe Bear. Go check him out. You gotta check out his stuff. Fly Not Drive. That's absolutely chest singles. Oh my gosh. Oh, that was great. See, what's funny is when I watch back to get ideas for future streams on some of these videos, I laugh and react to your guys' messages before they get on the screen, so nobody knows what I'm talking about unless I say it. But it's still funny. It's still great to watch, and people get it eventually. Man, yeah. Fly, don't drive. Let me touch on that just real quick, because there were some awesome things that came out of that. So I had kids that were really fractious during that time. And 3B, you have arrived. That is awesome. I am glad you've joined us. Do you mind me calling you 3B? Because I dig it, and if you dig it, then I'll keep it up. I enjoy Big Bang Bear. That's pretty funny. Is that in reference to the Big Bang of the universe, or is that in reference to like the TV show? Just was curious. And I'll look for that here. Anyway, Fly, Don't Drive. I learned how I think to be a better father and to be a better manager and organizer of my kids. Let's see here. I had an opportunity to practice one of Dr. Peterson's rules, which I think is just a useful thing anyway. And that was that you should be precise with your speech, as precise as you can be. And I've been trying to do that more and more and more, probably throughout my life anyway. I've felt like a need to do that to a point where it annoys people that I go ad infinitum with stuff. That's why live streaming is so great for me, because I can just talk. And I do want to edit myself to some degree, but yeah, I can be more delineative. I can get the answer out a little more specifically, you know, as to what I'm trying to say. So I had the opportunity several times to see behavior from some of my kids at different times and identify what's acceptable, what's not. Like if they're totally messing with their siblings or doing things that are just creating more instability in the attitudes in the car, and say, okay, I want to encourage your behaviors at some times to be funny or to be expressive and yelling and loud and very musical, whatever it be. But I want you to be considerate of all the people around you at the same time. There's times and places for certain behavior. Fighting with your brother that there's not enough room in your seat, you know, or accusing your brother of doing something to you when they're not, or when your brothers are doing something to you and messing with you and they shouldn't be, you know. A lot of it was my youngest, my daughter, having a hard time with that. But it was also one of my other sons. He's got an ornery streak in him, and he takes pleasure in that. He has a sense of humor that's different from the others. My youngest daughter is 7, so I've got 13. My boys are 13, 12, and 9, and then my daughter's 7. She'll be 8 toward the end of the year here. So I've got an interesting range there. It's not too broad, you know. 7 to 13 isn't too wide a gap there. Yeah, my 7-year-old and my 12-year-old, they sometimes clash a bit. She's particularly sensitive to thinking that people are making fun of her, or that you know, she perceives slights when there might not be one. But at the same time, she can definitely perceive a slight when it is happening. And my 12-year-old, yeah, you know, messing with each other or digging at each other. My 12-year-old, he takes a little bit of pleasure in being mischievous at times. But he's also a really good kid. You know, they all are. They're all extremely good kids. David, good to see you. Thanks for joining us, sir. I appreciate that. So those two ended up sitting next to each other a number of times, and it was kind of unavoidable. I probably could have switched it, but I wanted them. It was more important to me that they learn how to interact with each other respectfully, even if we had to go through some pain and suffering to get to that point. But yeah, I continually had the opportunity to mitigate the chaos and to remind them, I'm going to provide consequence for you. I'm going to provide boundary for you to say, this is acceptable, this is not, this has crossed the boundary. And this is only going to be good for you, because if you have behaviors that you've been exhibiting here as you continue it toward adulthood, it's going to make it a lot harder for you to make friends with people. If you're unpleasant with people, they're not going to want to have fun with you. They're not going to want to be around you. You need to consider other people. You need to consider how your actions and your words affect others around you. And so I'm going to keep hitting that point home as many times as you need me to get it through your head and adopt that, to really ingrain that into your person. Because I want you to have the best chance of being as successful as you can be when you grow up. I love you enough, I love you too much to not say that, or to not stop and give you boundaries, right? So yeah, there was a lot of that kind of thing. And it's like, it wasn't just, I didn't feel right in just saying, just stop because I'm tired and I'm not interested in dealing with it. I'm like, no, it's my job to deal with it. It's my job to have to deal with the chaos. And then at the same time, I didn't just say, you're going to stop because I said so. I'm like, yes, you're going to stop because I said so, but also because you need to, right? Exactly, Uncensored Christian, you're absolutely right. You need to understand what that means, and you start getting examples of how to do that in the world by doing it with your siblings, right? Having siblings gives you an opportunity to practice proper social interaction, right? Right from the get-go in life. And yes, some of my kids are still younger, but that doesn't mean that they can't start getting the message in mind and learning, okay, I'm not going to excuse this kind of behavior. I'm going to do it in a much more loving way than a lot of other people out there. So start learning it now. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself being miserable. There's going to be consequences. You're going to be unpleasant. And it was kind of reminding me at times, which is a little scary, of the story in Genesis where God is talking to Cain. It's like Genesis chapter 4, I want to say. God's talking to Cain and telling Cain, hey, I said, when you're going to worship me, I want you guys to use sacrifice. I want you to use sacrifice of the best from among your livestock, your animals that you keep. Cain was offering the best of his produce. But God said, well, no, there's the system that I've set up here, the method that I've set up for a lot of reasons, largely, and this isn't necessarily revealed yet, because God doesn't have to reveal it. He needs trust before he needs understanding, right? Largely, it's to prepare a pattern for you, a pattern that you can recognize and that you can continue to teach to your children when, at least in my view, when your Messiah shows up. Right? Because you're going to need a Messiah to sort of rectify the situation that now exists, where our relationship between God and man is broken. But there's going to have to be this shedding of innocent blood from the best of your livestock. And that's the pattern I've set forward from you. That's how it's going to go. And I'm the one who built the universe, so I kind of get to say. But you're flipping the script around. You're trying to do it a way that you think would be best. You're like, I'm going to offer the best of what you got here. And so if Cain was a farmer of produce rather than livestock, and his brother Abel did more of the livestock, that's not the problem. He can still get livestock. He still has method by which to do that, but he's choosing not to. And God said, if you did what was right, aren't you going to be given praise for that? Aren't you going to be spoken well to about it? I'm you know what? I've got a book right here. I should just look at how they said. And this is an old KJV here, but I like other versions. But the KJV is just one of the easiest to do research from. It's so linked to the concordances and other study tools. Let's see here. Oh, some of this is the preface. Some of it is not. I'm a little confused. What in the world? Oh, here we go. Okay, I was like, where's the text? So we got to go to chapter 4 anyway. The Lord said unto Cain, and this is verse 6 of chapter 4, why are you wroth? Why are you angry? And why is your countenance fallen? Why is your overall face cast down? Dude, Uncensored Christian, that's awesome. Yes, there's been books written on the detail in which the KJV was written, the pacing and the meter of it, the language. There's usually not more than a 4-syllable word there, so the digestibility for the average individual in the way that most of the wording is written. Yeah, you have to do some homework on some old English words, but it's not hard. I mean, once you've done it, you kind of get used to seeing those old English terms. And if you aren't sure about it, you can go look it up in a concordance, or you can look at a variety of different dictionaries and get a fuller meaning of it. I usually go to my Ancient Hebrew Lexicon of the Bible by Jeff Benner, and I double check certain word roots there, and I get a much fuller conceptual meaning of a word. Another good way that my grandfather used to do is see where a particular word is used throughout the scripture and how different forms of that word are used. But that's a huge method if you really want to dig into certain words that are odd. Your countenance. Countenance is one that we've used in our culture, just not as much. It's a little older in its usage. So the Lord said to Cain, why are you wroth? Why are you angry? And why is your countenance fallen? Why do you look, downcast? If you do well, shall you not be accepted? And if you do not well, sin lies at the door, and unto you shall be his desire, his sins, right? And you shall, let me see here. And unto you shall be his desire, and you shall rule over him. And I think that's in reference to Abel. I'm not sure there. Sometimes the wording, even of the KJV, kind of throws me off, the way some things are laid out there. I'll be honest. There's an old Mark Twain quote, or Samuel Clemens quote. It's not the passages in the Bible that I understand that bother me. It's the ones that I don't understand that bother me. It's the ones that I do, right? So I struggle more with the stuff that I do understand at times. Andrea Yates. I'm not familiar with Andrea Yates. I will have to research her. I don't know much about Andrea. Yeah, absolutely, Mama Bear. That's definitely a good topic for another time. I'm going to look up Andrea Yates and find out what she has to say. So I'm assuming that's she. But Andrea sounds more of a feminine name. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check that out. But the gist of what I understood happening there is that God's telling Cain, hey, do what you know you ought to do, and obviously you're going to have acceptance of your offering, right? It's going to happen. Sorry, I dropped the Bible there. So Cain doesn't really feel compelled to do that, even when God's talking to him, right? And so sometimes I've considered that when I talk to my kids, like, clearly if you do the thing you know you ought to do, things are going to go much better for you. You're not going to have or receive consequence from me. You're going to get praise from me. Like, I'm going to encourage you in that. Every time you do what you know you ought to, I praise you. My oldest, I definitely praised him big time yesterday, because he had to sit next to the two, my 12-year-old and my 7-year-old, who were fussing with each other. And he was patient, and he was relaxed and calm. Even though that was a stressful situation, he maintained a relaxed attitude throughout all of that. He focused on what things he could do instead of getting flustered about it. He may have had plenty of internal turmoil about it, but he was able to maintain calm throughout all of that, and that impacted the rest of the car. If he had not been calm, that would have negatively affected the environment and made it even more tense. But I praised him for that. I said I was really proud of him, because in the midst of a lot of intense stress and struggle, he stayed calm. He stayed focused on what he needed to do. And that was big. That was huge. That was a large big brother win moment for him. And I was really, really proud of him. Definitely let him know. I was proud of all my kids, because they endured stuff, and they had plenty of moments where they did well. But in particular, I had to point out Logan's success there. So, yeah, it was an interesting trip, and I worry sometimes about the Cain thing, or that comes to mind, because I think, well, I'll tell him, over and over again, it's going to go well with you if you do what's right, and is it enough? Is it still going to make an impact long term? But I'm reminded of that proverb: train a child up in the way they should go, and when they're old, they won't depart from it. And I hope and pray that that's the case, that I continue to just repetitively hint back to, here's the deal, here's what you should do, and here's why. Here's what's going to happen when you do it. It's going to be positive. It's going to have a massively good impact on you and the people around you. I don't just tell you what to do, I tell you why. I don't have to tell you why. I'm well within my rights to say do it because I said so, but I want you to understand why. I want you to get it, because you have brains, you have the capacity to think, and I want you to be able to consider. Maybe you'll think of things that are even better as you get to be a parent, and you'll go deeper with some of this, right? It's not just let's just get through the day here. It's like, let's continue to improve. When I was in the Army, they always had this phrase, improve your foxhole, right? When you're in a combat situation and you're dug in a position, you want to continually find ways to improve your position, right? So that you have a better state of mind at the simplest of things. You can focus on what you need to do and do it effectively, right? That's huge. If you can just have a more organized area, it's like clean up your room, right? It comes back to that. It's like you continue to improve your foxhole. If even just a little bit of improvement in the place where you're going to spend a majority of your time is going to put a little less stress on your mind, and then you are more focused on handling the different stuff that's coming at you, whether it's attack, whether it's positive stresses, whether it's opportunities that you want to handle. You know, it's like I'm kind of mixing the military concept with real life. I'm mixing metaphors here, bringing that, you know, simultaneously with sharing the concept. I'm bringing an application of it to normal everyday life. So, man, fun stuff happens that I don't expect in these live streams. Topics come up that I didn't expect, and I love that. I absolutely love it. So let's think here. We had a great time. It was a good vacation. Got to spend good time with all my family down there. All my two brothers and my sister were there, and got to meet my sister's boyfriend. He's a great guy, really neat man. Interesting character. I like his beard. It's a very masculine beard, and that's a good thing to see. Champion the beard cause. You know, Chuck Norris would be proud. Wear that beard. Trying to think now. I don't think his was made of granite as Mr. Norris's, you know, but or some harder. Yeah, you guys ever heard that one? That I used to be into the Chuck Norris True Facts years ago. No man bun that I became aware of. I did not see that. I'm not aware of any soy consumption, but let's say, I wouldn't say it doesn't happen there, but let's see, you've got two brothers and a sister. Is your sister also youngest? No, she is the third youngest. Yeah, it's close. So it's me, and then my brother Ben, who's about 3 years younger, my sister, who's about 7 years younger than me, and then my youngest brother, yeah, M is my sister, and then Ian is the youngest, and Ian's, let's see, I'm trying to think now because I forget years. Was that 94? December 94. So he's rocking 23. He'll be 24 this fall, I believe. Yeah, he's kicking it. So got quite the range. Oh, you're a middle guy. That explains a lot, Steve. Just kidding, man. Yeah, middle kids. People always talk about. Was it? I think it's the guy who did the love languages, Gary Chapman. It might be Gary Chapman, who wrote the 5 love languages book, but I think he also had one about birth order. It might have been a different person who did a book on birth order. I could be wrong, but there's apparently psychology behind birth order to some degree, and some things that are fairly consistent. Not always, there are exceptions to every rule, but there's some somewhat consistent patterns of psychology amongst you know, that are predictable in correlation with birth order amongst kids. And firstborns have certain tendencies, middle kids have certain tendencies, youngest kids have certain tendencies. It's yeah, it's interesting. I would, if I could find that name, I'd definitely pass it on. I want to say Gary Chapman, but I could be wrong. For some reason I was thinking it was him. But yeah, the birth order book. I think there's something out there called the birth order book that talks about psychology of kids in correlation with their birth order. So we say, oh, the middle child's kind of, you know, got their issues and stuff like that. The oldest has their complexes as well. Um, and sometimes I think we compare the youngest with having like the little man syndrome or something like that. But um, yeah, I would definitely, yeah, your middle children definitely have their issues. You're right. I would check that out. I think it's called the Birth Order book, but it's worth a read. I'm just like thinking about different things that might be interesting to you. That's one thing I wanted to mention today. I'll probably get into it later on. A middle child equals messed up. Steve, you're crack up, brother. I always love your input, man. Oh my gosh, you guys, I love y'all. I love bears. I love spending time with bears. I'm going to wrap it up quick, but I do want to say, some of you may recall that Kevin Lehman, thank you, Analog. That's awesome. See, bears get it going on. They find stuff like that. That's amazing. With our powers combined, we are Bear Planet. That's what we are. Not some out in space save the planet silliness cartoon, which was hilarious. I did enjoy that, but Steven Crowder's right. Hard is pointless. So months ago is what I meant to say. I understand that Dr. Peterson had recommended to Owen that he read the Gulag Archipelago. He's talked about that ad infinitum a number of times. He's mentioned, Captain Planet's a hero. Yeah, Dr. Peterson's mentioned the Gulag Archipelago. That is a book. Okay, guys, like, I'm going to put the link in the description today for you to check it out, but maybe we'll talk a little bit more about it next time. I started listening to that on my drive home. Like, I don't know if that's the most recommendable time to start listening to a book like that, but it definitely put the trip in perspective. Like, as torrential as the trip got at times, it was never so bad as what the Gulag Archipelago describes for people in the Soviet Union, as far back as like 1915 or so. So there's that going for us, right? Yeah, there's a YouTube clip out there that's got, I think it's well over 11 hours and 40 minutes, at least. Volume 1 of the Gulag Archipelago. It says, what part of LI are you? And I think you meant IL. I'm suspecting you mean Illinois. Peoria, about the middle central area. Yeah, it's like reading numbers in the Bible while hanging upside down from a weak limb on a tree. The Gulag Archipelago, you mean? Yeah, it's intense. I would have it read to you at first if that would be more palatable, if you could maybe digest it. And it's cool because this recording that I found on YouTube, I hope it stays up for a while, whoever posted it. The whole thing is like 11 hours, 40 minutes, and it's volume 1. Yeah, Kulak was nuts, man. Hoffman Estates. Oh, cool, man. That's excellent. Oh, cool, man. Oh, you guys are kind of conversing between the two of you. I would say, let's see here. So I guess the original recording that this is from was on cassette tape, and somebody preserved it from the cassettes in a digital format now on YouTube. And so you'll have the breaks of each cassette about every 40 or so minutes, right? And that, I would say, makes it more digestible. Just take it in those single side of a cassette blocks, and try to work your way through it. But I've gotten the first 1.5 sides done, or the first cassette I'm almost finished with, and wow, just wow, that's an incredible work, and it's so detailed. It's so specifically detailed. What struck me about that, and again, I'll get more into it at another time, was that Solzhenitsyn got into, at the beginning, just making an apology to all the people that didn't survive, like not having a better memory of the events. And dear Lord in heaven, like Doc Peterson's not kidding when he says that's probably, I want to say that he mentioned that it's probably like one of the top literary pieces of the 20th century, if not history. I mean, the mind that it took to organize and recall with such graphic detail the events of that that culture, that time, you know, what was going on in the Soviet Union. It must have taken, it just must have been such a surmountable task. It's like what I think about when I see a skyscraper or some great feat of architecture that's been put together. A massive bridge extending over a huge area of water. I know there's some bridges that are over a mile long, several miles long in some places, and I marvel at what it must have taken to get that going, to get that put together. That's what I think of when I start digging into this book, you know, and I see how this guy's apologizing at the outset for saying, I'm sorry if I didn't remember enough. I'm sorry if I didn't get precise enough, you know, because the people that died in this, that they deserve more than what I was able to give. Like, he gave as much as he had in producing this work to let future generations know, don't go this way. Don't let your society become this corrupted, you know, by going that far. I would say in authoritarianism, in constraining people. Don't let this happen again, because it's absolutely vile, and people were happy to do it. It's like Uncensored Christian talked about what Doc Peterson had said maybe a week or so ago. You know, if you had been around in Nazi Germany, the probability is you would have been a Nazi and you would have enjoyed it. Like, people that were a part of the secret police organizations and different things throughout the Soviet Union's network, they were pleased to do what they were doing. People that were just average citizens, they were at times pleased to be taken away and arrested. Like, they knew that there was a whole sweep being done in their neighborhood, and they were the last ones to get taken or something. They'd be waiting hours. You know, it was agony, just waiting, wondering if they're going to get taken or not. And then they were like relieved and happy when the police finally came to take them away. You know, just mind-blowing to see the attitude there, that this guy Solzhenitsyn was like, I'm sorry, I couldn't do better. Yeah, that blew me away, and I'm scratching the surface on this. I'm just getting started. I'll probably have to dig through this book at least 3 times before I even get close to having an understanding of what I've read. I mean, it's so thick. At some point, I'm probably going to try and sit down and just map it out a little bit better. Like, this section, this whole chapter was about this is about that. This was the focus here. So that I can better understand what I've dug into here. But I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful. If you want a perspective change in your day, if you think that you've had some rough time, you know, if you think, man, I need to fly the next time I go on vacation, I ain't doing that crud again. Hey, Chunk, come on, buddy. Come here and me talk to people. Here, come say hi. Come say hi. They need a chunk face today. They need to talk to a chunky puppy. Here you go. Come here, buddy. Come here, puppies. Yup. He's such a big-headed dog, too. Such a big-headed puppy. Everybody on vacation, all my family was like, his head's so huge. It is. It's like a third of his body. Most of his weight is in his head. His full name is Goalie, which is short for Goliath. Goalie Sir Chunk Poley Chubbs Esquire. So, like, all 4 of my kids got to pick a name, and it was this big combo name. But, of course, just for short, we call him Chunk, because it's a good name. Come here, bud. Oh, big puppy. Big puppy. Yeah. Are you having a good morning? Did you have a good poop? Yeah. It's a good way to start your day, huh? Yeah. Are you happy to be home? I'm happy to be home with you. I'm glad you're not in that big car. I don't like to be in the car so much because it's moving a lot, and then when I'm in the car you don't pet me as much, and I don't get to have the blueberries. Oh, oh. It's impossible to resist doing a Hopper voice for this guy because he's probably like a cousin of Hopper. You know, they're both gigantic dogs. By the way, security for Big Drum Bear is provided exclusively by Chunk. One day it'd be Walther too, if I could get one of those. Boy, PPQ, man, that'd be a great one to have. Definitely would dig into that. But yeah, chunk guarding is also a good thing. Well, it's been about an hour. I've talked about a number of different things today. I hope that you guys have had a fun time on this stream. And yeah, okay, I'm going to look back through the chat and find that name that you mentioned. Andrea, I can't think of it now, but I'm going to look that up. And I'm going to have to dig into what that was about. No better home security than a big dog. Andrea Yates. Thanks, Mama Bear. Andrea Yates. Yes. Pain to field strip a Walther. I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that. Kodiak, you need to never say that again, especially near my wife. We need 10 dogs, 10 big dogs, like we need a hole in our head, right? From a Walther, right? We just... Oh, you know what? Yeah, Kiki, you're right. I want the Jordan Peterson preface too. That blows my mind. That's such an incredible honor for him, and it's so appropriate. When I heard that, he got to do the foreword for the latest anniversary of Solzhenitsyn's book, I was like, that's just right. That's just absolutely right. Yes, right? Absolutely. And I think he would be pleased to do it. I guarantee he would be pleased to autograph it for you. Yes, yeah. There was a video I just recently saw. Maybe it was it in Owens, or was it on... It was some interview that he did recently. It might have been at the Aspen Ideas Festival, where that English professor was trying to dig at him, or literature professor, or whatever he was. But I know somewhere he talked about that he was asked to write the foreword for Solzhenitsyn's book. Probably wasn't that Aspen thing. It was probably something else now that I think about it. But absolutely they did. Absolutely, you're right. And that was such a good interview with him. Blowing my mind how good that was. Because he was just absolutely smoking. Yeah, I saw that, Kodiak. 12 dogs. Dear Lord in heaven. I wish that on no person. I mean, if you're happy, more hats off to you. If you've got like space for them to just be free, great. Our residents here, we're pretty well packed in with 3. Sometimes we babysat. My wife has taken care of other people's dogs, and you know, we've had as much as 5 or 6 in the house at a time. But I have zero desire to do that. No kidding. Yes, you got to get Babe out here. He'd be a dog pig. Yes, 3 dogs can be massively overwhelming. I don't know if you should eat that, Chunk. That's some grass. It's probably okay. You should eat some grass, but just be mindful. I gotta mow. I haven't mowed since we've been gone. I didn't mow some of this backyard for a while before we left, so I gotta get on that. Yeah, Kiki, I empathize. I have the 4 dogs, but I have the 4 kids, but I also have the 3 fur kids, and a cat. So really 4 fur kids. At any rate, good leg archipelago. Find the one with Jordan Peterson's forward if you can. I'm going to try to do the same. But I'll get the description edited later, and I'll put a link in for that. I'll put a link in for some of the music I've been talking about. Like, subscribe, share, guys. I really appreciate it. We're growing all the time. I love to see more and more of it. And like I said, I hope to get to a point where this could be my whole life. I can make the stream better and better, and just make it more enjoyable for when people come into this. I might switch to more like an 8 o'clock time frame. It seems like more people were able to engage at 8 o'clock than at 7:30. So we might, sort of slide into there. And then you'll be in time for Owen's stream, and Dom can get his things going on. Guys, yeah, I really appreciate it. There's tons of thumbs up today. That's a blast. I love that. Gonna get some more music going, but I thought I'd show you the bass, and maybe at another time when I'm not talking about every other thing under the sun. No pun intended. Plenty of sun going on here. We'll get some bass ideas going on here, bass lessons. Some fundamentals of the major scale pattern from the bass. Yeah, that'll be 8 a.m. Central Time, because that's where I'm at in Illinois here. There we go. You can't even hear this probably from there. I went too high on that. Yeah, just playing arpeggios there. Yeah, I was a little Star Spangled Banner there. Maybe I can get the amp hooked up and you can have a better tone. But this is a really cheap bass. It's not set up well. Just good enough that I can teach from it, and I can get a semi-decent tone. And when you hear it through the amp, you don't pick up the rattling that's going on in some of these tuners. All right, you guys have a great day. I love y'all. I will talk to you later. Look forward to seeing Doms, and peace, bears.